We don't need the heat now. Let's dry this off. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Anjaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajakacharya Ashtotirtha Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajakacharya Ashtotirtha Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Kantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. So today, today being the appearance day of Sri Purushottam Das Thakur, who's an associate of Lord Nityananda. We'll read a little bit about him. We have a little entry here. Okay, appearance day of Purushottam Das Thakur, March 3rd this year. Sri Purushottam Das Thakur constantly meditated on and served the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda. Kanu Thakur, his son, was such an exalted devotee that Lord Krishna always lived in his body. When Kanu was 5, Mahajanava took him to Vrindavan. The Goswamis joyously greeted him upon seeing his genuine devotion. In Goloka Vrindavan, Purushottam Das Thakur serves Lord Balaram as a cowherd boy, Dwadasha Gopal, one of the 12 Gopals. His samadhi is located in the 64 Samadhis area. Shri Purushottam Das Thakur Ki Jai. Kanu Thakur Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Okay, now. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On its third day of March, 2025 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are finishing up chapter 3 of the 8th canto, entitled Gajendra's Prayers for Surrender, and it's text 32. Sontach Sarasi Urubalena Grihita Arto Drishtva Garutmati Harim Ka Upata Chakram Utshipya Sambuja Karam Giram Aha Krichan Narayanakila Guru Bhagavan Namaste. Okay, now don't forget how to pronounce those because I forgot the introductories. Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriyet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremmost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta Prayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service unto the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in the best of songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Sontak Sarasyurubalena Grihita Arto Drishtva Gorutmati Harim Kahupata Chakram Uchipya Sambujakadam Gidamaha Krichan Narayana Kilaguru Bhagavan Namaste. Sontak Sarasyurubalena Grihita Arto Drishtva Gorutsmati Hadim Ka Upata Chakram Uchipya Sambujakadam Giram Aha Krichan Narayana Kilaguru Bhagavan Namaste. Sontak Sarasyurubalena Grihita Arto Drishtva Gorutsmati Hadim Ka Upata Chakram Uchipya Sambujakadam Gidamahat Krichan Narayana Kilaguru Bhagavan Namaste. Sontak Sarasyurubalena Grihita Arto Drishtva Garutsmati Hadim Ka Upata Chakram Uchipya Sambujakadam Gidam Aha Krichan Narayana Kilaguru Bhagavan Namaste. What's else? Go ahead, Chad. Oh, okay. Sontak Sarasyurubalena Grihita Arto Drishtva Garutsmati Hadim Kahupata Chakram Uchipya Sambujakadam Gidam Aha Krichan Narayana Kila Guru Bhagavan Namaste. Anyone else? Matthias, you forgot your glasses. Sontak Sarasudu Balena Grihita Arto. Here, Garutmati. Garutmati. Drishtva Garutmati Hadim Kahupata Chakram. Uchipya Sambujakadam Gidamaha Kricham. Narayana Kilaguru Bhagavan Namaste. Sontak Sarasudu Balena Grihita Arto. Rishtva Garutsmati Hadim Kaupata Chakram. Uchipya Sambujakadam Gidamaha Kritran. Narayana Kilaguru Bhagavan Namaste. Anyone online?
Santa Sarasi Urubalena Grihita Arto.
Sontak Sarasudu Balena Grihita Arto.
Drishtva Garutmati Harim Ka Upata Chakram.
Drishtva Garutsmati Hadim Ka Upata Chakram.
Utshipya Sambujakaram Giramaha Krichran.
Uchipya Sambujakadam Gidam Aha Kritran.
Narayana Kilaguru Bhagavan Namaste.
Narayana Kilaguru Bhagavan Namaste. Okay, word by words. Saha, he Gajendra. Antak Sarasi, in the water. Urubalena, with great force. Grihitaha, who had been captured by the crocodile. Artaha, and severely suffering. Drishtva, upon seeing. Garutmati, on the back of Garuda. Harim, the Lord. K, in the sky. Upata Chakram, wielding his disc. Uchipya, raising. Saambujakaram, his trunk along with a lotus flower. Giramaha, uttered the words. Kritchat, with great difficulty because of his precarious position. Narayana, O my Lord Narayan, Akalaguru, O universal Lord, Bhagavan, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, Namahate. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Translation. Gajendra had been forcibly captured by the crocodile in the water and was feeling acute pain. But when he saw that Narayan, wielding his disc, was coming in the sky on the back of Garuda, he immediately took a lotus flower in his trunk, and with great difficulty, due to his painful condition, he uttered the following words: O my Lord, Narayan, Master of the universe, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Purport. The king of the elephants was so very eager to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead that when he saw the Lord coming in the sky with great pain and in a feeble voice, he offered respect to the Lord. A devotee does not consider a dangerous position to be dangerous, for in such a dangerous position he can fervently pray to the Lord in great ecstasy. Thus a devotee regards danger as a good opportunity. Tat te anukampan susamikshamaanaha. Okay. Oh boy. Okay, sorry. Time out. When a devotee is in great danger, he sees that danger to be the great mercy of the Lord, because it is an opportunity to think of the Lord very sincerely and with undiverted attention. Tattenu kampam susamikshamano bundana evatmakatam vipakam. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:14-8. He does not accuse the Supreme Personality of Godhead for having let his devotee fall into such a dangerous condition. Rather, he considers that dangerous condition to be due to his past misdeeds, and takes it as an opportunity to pray to the Lord and offer thanks for having been given such an opportunity. When a devotee lives in this way, his salvation, his going back home, back to Godhead, is guaranteed. We can see this to be true from the example of Gajendra, who anxiously prayed to the Lord and thus received an immediate chance to return home back to Godhead. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and to all members of Sri Parampara. So here is the climax of the great capturing of Gajendra in the river by the crocodile. And we can see, and Prabhupada explains here, that this attitude of, because inevitably in this material world, especially Kali Yuga, there are going to be reverses, there's going to be pains, there's going to be suffering, and every devotee, he has a different relationship with the Lord than the non-devotees for sure, but we all have these material bodies, and so there's reverses are going to come. So then the question is, well, how do you deal with that when things happen, the threefold miseries and so many things coming, the difficulties in the service? And this verse in the 10th canto 14.8, which is one of the prayers of Lord Brahma, perhaps the most famous, this Jnani Priyasam, which is also very, very famous, is a key verse. Because if you broaden your perspective a little bit and you just look upon how, because religion is all over the world. I think probably a majority of people in the world believe in God. Kali Yuga is moving on, but still. And many of them, most of them, I mean, when I grew up, I wasn't in a religious family, but many of my friends were. And praying to God was a way of asking for, of course, bread. That's the obvious thing. But your material benefits, ways of relieving your material miseries. This was a standard prayer. And indeed, we find in Gajendra's prayers that he felt a little embarrassed, because he was saying he didn't have the name of Narayan or Vishnu. He didn't, although probably in the first translation he says Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, but that's one other thing. But he also understood, his position, that he was crying out to the Lord out of fear and in the great danger he was in. And he kind of berated himself, because he said that pure devotees don't beg for anything. But I'm like, I'm not in that position. And the reason I'm calling out to you is because I'm in this big, position. And in that, in that anxiety and that critical position of danger, he remembered this prayer from a previous life, right, from his previous life. So that's a big point at the beginning of the prayers that he offers. Prabhupada points out that, and therefore we should also memorize some prayers. Maybe in our next life we'll remember them. He said, of course we should remember Hare Krishna, But, so that's some advice there. And then he's always going on, and he's describing, who God is. He doesn't have the name, but he's describing someone who can only be God, the source of everything, and like that, And I think we learned in the last verse that the demigods, they're also coming down after this prayer. Maybe that's in the next. They appear with Narayan. They're with him, offering prayers to him. And why are they offering prayers to him at that point? Because they feel a little embarrassed that they didn't go to help Gajendra, because he's not calling on us, But okay, but he still needs help. Maybe you could. So they were trying to pray for forgiveness for what they considered a sin. It's a lot of dynamics going on here. But this verse, Tattena Kampam, and I can link to it easily, so we have exact translation here. My dear Lord, this is Brahma praying to little Krishna now. One who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds and offering you respectful obeisances with his heart, words, and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. So that's Prabhupada's translation, I think, from the CEC, probably. Evatma kritam vipakam. So this, yes, reaction of his own past misdeeds. So you realize that you're suffering for your own past misdeeds. It's not Krishna's fault. See, this is a problem. This is how people become atheists. Prabhupada tells the story of the wives and mothers and daughters of in Germany, of those who went to war. Everybody was dragged in. At the end of the war, they were drafting old men into the army. So they were Lutherans probably, and they were going very fervently to church. They were all going to church and praying from the bottom of their heart that their sons and their husbands and their brothers and the children, and the fathers would all return, And many of them didn't return, or if they returned, they were grievously injured, And he said that many of them became atheists. We prayed like anything. We've been going to church our whole lives. So what kind of God is that, So that's the famous God as order supplier. God as order supplier. That is not bhakti, you see. And this, give us this day our daily bread, probably would talk about that. This is a standard prayer, for the Christians. But real bhaktas don't, do that. Give us this day our opportunity to offer you some bread. This is what bhakti is, ways that we can serve Krishna's desires. Remember the essence of the whole thing. This is why at the very beginning, practically, first couple of verses, in the Nectar of Devotion of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami defines the essence of pure bhakti, which is what, is the whole goal, of everything. Anya bilashita shunyam jnana karmandyanavatam anukulyena krishnanushilanam bhaktir uttama. So the very first words, anya abhilashita shunyam, devoid of any other desire. Any other desire than what? Than acting in such a way to please Krishna. That's our goal. And he gives a little summary of the kind of other desires it can be. Karma, gyan, adi. Adi means and many others. So karma is the standard fruit of desire. It can be because you're in great danger, because you need some money to pay your rent, whatever it is, Or I just want to get rich, please, It's for you. And then the jnana, it takes in the desire for liberation, you see, by discussing the Vedanta Sutra, through philosophical discussion and speculation, we'll understand what the absolute is, and then we can merge with that, and we can be free from birth, death, old, and disease. I want to be free from birth, death, old, and disease. Birth, death, old age, and disease, because I'm suffering, and I don't care about all the rest of these people. This is, Prahlad's famous prayer for the preachers. Prayena deva muneo, svamukti kama, maunam chadandi vijane naparata nishta. Nanyam vihaya kripana bahumuk. Soche tato. No, that's the previous verse. Nanyam vihaya kripana bahum. I forget the last line, Sanskrit. But what he's saying is, for the most part, these munis, these wise men, these seekers, prayena deva muni, O Lord, svamukti kama, very important phrase. He puts desire for his own mukti into the category of kama. What is kama? The nice, beautiful definition has been given by Krishna's Kaviraj in the 4th chapter of the Adi Leela. It says, Atmandriya prati vanche kam. Krishnendriya prati icha dare prem nam. Desire to please one's own senses, and of course getting, liberation and get free from birth and all the days and death. This is the ultimate sense gratification in one sense, is kama. Desire to please Krishna's senses is prema. So we have to, bhakti yoga, the process of bhakti yoga, the sadhana bhakti, the vidhi bhakti, according to rules and regulations, is simply a process of purifying these selfish desires into a desire to please Krishna, which is the natural, original desire. It's been curdled by our meditation on the dualities of this material world and our absorption in it. Prabhupada gives, some devotees, I guess it's not as prominent as it used to be, but when a certain god nephew of Prabhupada's was prominent in ISKCON, and a lot of devotees were looking to him, there was this whole debate of whether we fell from the spiritual world or not. Now, who can deny that? I once counted. In the database, you can find out how many times Prabhupada appears in his books or letters and lectures, back home, back to Godhead, and it was like 600 or something. It was a lot. The name in the magazine, back to Godhead. The whole. So there's no doubt that Prabhupada understood that we're going back home to the place where we once were. We fell from the spiritual world. And indeed, there was just a little history of this, because it's worth knowing. This even came up while Prabhupada was on the planet. There was a devotee in Australia who had a leadership position. I don't know if he was a president, maybe he was a president of one temple. And he found some passages in the books which seemed to indicate that we fell from Brahman or something. We didn't come from the spiritual world, So Madhudvish Swami, he was the GBC for Australia. And it was during Prabhupada's time, so he wrote to Srila Prabhupada and asked him, can you please say something explicit, describe, and settle this issue once and for all, how and when we came from the spiritual world. So Prabhupada wrote him a letter, and attached to the letter was a long essay that he, I think, dictated, because it was kind of edited. Maybe Haigriva or somebody got into it. And that was like the definitive word of Prabhupada, and of the whole thing. And I won't go through the whole thing. It's come to be known as the Crow and Tal letters. I don't know is anyone familiar with that, Crow and Tal? Crow and Tal refers to what Prabhupada, after he explains the whole thing. But it's not worth spending your time on. Don't waste time. Just like two guys, and in India, if you go to India, you'll find a lot of people just sitting around, who are unemployed, So these two guys, able-bodied men, they were sitting in a garden somewhere, they didn't have anything else to do. So they're sitting there, and they see they're under a tal tree, with the fruit, like talavan, And this crow comes and lands on one of the branches. And they're looking what's going on, And after a while, he flies off. And when he flies off, one of the fruits falls from the branch. So now the question, this is a big philosophical question. They spent the rest of the afternoon on it. Did the crow, when he was getting ready to fly off, did he cause the branch to move and then cause the fruit to fall? Or did the tal fruit fall naturally and scared the crow that he flew off? Very important philosophical question. So in other words, they spent all afternoon arguing that, and there's no point in it. So the point is, probably don't waste your time arguing about this. But after giving a definitive word of what it was, because whether you didn't come down from there or you did come down, the same process is there. If you're going to go back home, back to God, or just go to Godhead, you still have to develop pure love for Krishna. But the kind of the money quote, if you will, the sentence that was key, that I would always quote in this regard. Prabhupada says near the beginning of his little essay there, once we were with Krishna in his Leela or sport. Because a lot of guys say, oh yeah, we were in this Brahmajyoti, that part of the spiritual world, but we weren't actually in a developed, relationship, or developed Swarup relation with Krishna, Because you can't fall from that. You can't possibly fall from that. And but that's what Prabhupada said. We were with Krishna in his Leela or sport. That means that we were in our relationship. Anyway, I think it's a GBC. The GBC wrote a book. They actually put together a book showing how this is what our philosophy is. So, how to get back there? Why are we here? This is part of Sambandha. This is the original knowledge we have to have in order to deepen our faith in the process of devotional service. So, the key element is that we have free will. There has to be, Krishna has ultimate free will. He can do whatever he wants, whenever he wants. We know that. But because we're part and parcel of Krishna, we have minute free will. And that free will extends, part of it is our choice to love Krishna. Krishna doesn't want us, a famous quote from Prabhupada, you've heard me talk, Krishna doesn't want us to love him at the point of a revolver. That's not love. It's not out of fear. This is all Western religions. You're worshiping God out of fear. Oh, I don't want to go to hell. Okay, all right. And if you do sin, as you inevitably will, you said, oh my God, now I'm going to be, so I better go confess. And that's fear religion. This is not bhakti. Bhakti is a love religion. But what we should fear is Maya. We should fear the pull of Maya and the illusion of Maya. That's what. So that's we should run to Krishna and we should chant Hare Krishna in such a way. Please, take away these material desires. We had this whole thing about Lord Nrsingadev yesterday, and you may have heard this before because some of you have been around for a while. I've told it. But when I was working on the books on the marathon in 1975, my greatest good fortune. The 17 books of 2 months marathon. I didn't come in on the marathon until the second month. It was like 2 months. Anyway, that's a long story, but I was given the task of editing 4 chapters in the Antya Lila and 4 or 5 chapters in the 5th canto. That was part of it, the 5th canto. So in the 5th canto, if you look carefully, I think it's chapter 5, it's near the beginning, the residents of Jambudvip offer prayers. And it's beautiful. Many prayers. And one of those residents is Prahlad. So he's offering more prayers to Nrsingadev because we just finished chapter 9 of the in the 7th canto. Anyway, it seems we recently read that. Yeah, we're in the 8th canto now, of course. So those are the standard prayers. There's 30 or 40 of them. This is maybe 4 or 5 prayers. But one of the first ones was a prayer that expanded his request to Nrsingadev when he after he killed Hiranyakashipu. Because when you pray, you always request for something, right? So he didn't really request for anything. So Nrsingadev said, "Well, what do you want? I'll give you whatever you want." And Prahlad said, "Don't tempt me, Lord. I'm born in a demoniac family, and I'm not a Vanik. I'm not a businessman. I'm not coming to you asking you for bread, or anything." But he saw that it was a service to Nrsingadev to let him give him something. That's also important, So okay, but if I forgot the Sanskrit, I have to review these verses more. But he said basically in one short verse, if you want to give me something really valuable, O Lord, the best of the giver of benedictions, then please give me this, that in my heart the seed of material desire will never grow. In other words, my heart will remain free of all material desires, and I will only desire to serve you. And of course, the other one, which is really famous, the request is, please save my father. And he said, don't worry, so many generations back and generations forward, you'll be fine. And the generations forward, where we have Bali, who's a devotee, and even Banasura, who has Asura as his last name, he's kind of a demon. But he was blessed because when there was a battle between finally Banasura, when Usha and Aniruddha got together, and Usha was Banasura's daughter, and the first thing you want to do, guard your daughter, make sure that no boy can get near your daughter. So she had all kinds of guards and everything. But there was also Chitralekha. So she had this dream about Aniruddha, and she woke up in the middle of the night and said, "Oh, who are you dreaming about?" "I don't know his name, But Chitralekha, she's an artist, so she was able to draw. So you just describe him to me, and I'll start drawing. And when you get to it, so she's drawing. And finally, she drew Aniruddha, and she said, "Oh yes, that's him." She was embarrassed. Don't worry, I can go bring him. So she went through the air. She was flying in space, and go and kidnapped him from Dwarka and brought him back. And so he then started having this affair with Usha in the middle of the palace, and she's supposed to be protected, and everything, and all these guards. And finally, Banasura found out. He was furious, and there was a battle, and Aniruddha was arrested. Anyway, it's a long story. But he wasn't killed. When Krishna came, he fought with him eventually, but he didn't kill him. Shiva said, oh, he's my devotee, don't kill him. Don't worry, he's the descendant of Prahlad. So he cut off his 996 of his 1,000 arms, which must have been hurt a little bit. But he left him alive, and he then said, okay, now Ushananiruddha, please go to Dwarka, you can be married, no problem. So he was a descendant of Prahlad, so Krishna wouldn't kill him. So anyway, so the same prayer, the first one, that let me not have any material desires, that was in a beautiful extended prayer that he offered in Jambudvipa, in the 5th canto. And so when I read the end of the purport, Prabhupada said, any devotee who wants to be purified of material desires should worship Lord Nrsingadev, offer prayers to Nrsingadev as Prahlad did in this prayer. I said, oh, really? Okay, so I immediately memorized it. It wasn't a verse. It's a long prose passage, but you can see how beautiful it is. Oh, he was chanting some of it last night. I noticed pieces of it. Om Namo Bhagavate Narasimhaya. Although he said Narasimhaya, but we don't do that. Prabhupada said Singha. This whole thing of Narasimha, if you read that book about the Kirtan standards, Jayawada mentions that. Jayawada Swami mentions that about Namaste Narasimhaya, because that's the way Prabhupada pronounced it. Singapore, not Simapore, Singapore, right? That comes from the lion city. There's a lot of lions in there. Anyway, so Om Namo Bhagavate Narasimhaya, Namaste Tejase Avadavir Bhavavadhanakavadadangsha Karma Shayan Randaya Tamo Grasa Om Swaha Abhihamatmani Bhuhishta Om Kshaum. You remember last night he was emphasizing that Om, everyone is saying Om, you go to Strom, because the AU could be pronounced O, But if you're going to pronounce that O, why don't you pronounce the Nrsimha, with the sing. Anyway, I'm not going to argue. It's Nrsimha. Okay. So that's the prayers that the prayers that we can give, and here so back to Gajendra. So Gajendra, he couldn't remember exactly God's name because he's in the body of an elephant, but he remembered the prayers, I guess basically the prayers, and it could only be for God. That prayer that he's describing, if you recall, the one who is the controller of all, who's the source of everything, So that was auspicious. And then when finally the Lord comes, then there's no question, he offers Narayana Akila, right? Here. Narayana Akila Guru Bhagavan. So the name is there. He sees the Lord. He remembers everything. So the prayer, the famous prayer of Brahma, Tate Anukampam Susamikshmano. So he sees that the suffering as part of the Lord's mercy. Because why is it merciful? Because, as Prabhupada explains, it induces us to pray the Lord really intensely, to focus on it with great intensity and from the bottom of your heart. So in one sense, it's a blessing. And the great devotees, they all recognize that. And we see that many of them went through experiences like that. Prabhupada on the boat, and so many times after that, the dangers, and cheaters trying to. We had right in 26th Avenue with that guy, Mr. Pierce, I think. He saw all these guys that don't know what they're doing. So he's trying to cheat us out of $1,000. And what to speak of Mr. Nair, back in Bombay. Or Prabhupada in Mauritius. It's not so much mentioned, but he was in a head-on crash. Yeah, they were driving on the left side of the road because that's the standard, I think, in India anyway. And there was somebody who had come from America, and they were on the right side of the road, and they come over to the live, boom. Luckily, they weren't going so fast. And amazingly, those who were in the car with Prabhupada, they noticed that just before it happened, he braced himself. He had some intuition that something was going to happen. So, but it was a danger. But Prabhupada, he never, what to speak of, prayed to Krishna to stop him putting him in dangers. But he saw that as a kind of a measure of the sincerity of the preacher, is that he's willing to go through all those dangers. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was threatened with assassination, and he knew how dangerous it was in Vrindavan. He just went there and he was protected, So this is the part of the main lesson here, is that we should look to the Lord for protection. And when reverses happen in our lives, that get all the diseases are going to happen and dangers all along the way, then we call out to Krishna for protection. It's important to get that reflex in, because when something happens, someone cuts you off on I-5, you can easily say other things, and other people say all kinds of things. But you should say, Krishna, Krishna, you don't know what happened. This would be, I told Buddy and Ryan my story. I was almost in an accident. But before I joined, I was, as I mentioned, an Orthodox communist. And the war in Vietnam was going. That was our main cause, to try to end that. Year after year, I go to Washington and everything. So there was a communist mela that was in Montreal, and we were in New York, so we had to drive up, And it was like the end of March, probably. It was spring, it's sprung, but it was still pretty cold. And we were just driving up on the thruway, it was called, but it gets into the mountains there, the Adirondack Mountains, So we're driving. I'm driving. We're in a stolen car. Don't ask. And I'm driving. And suddenly, an icy patch, because we got up and then, it was cold and it was icy and I had no traction at all. So we went around. Luckily, we didn't go over, but we went around a couple of times this way, and with a couple of the ladies in the car, they were screaming. And we ended up in the midway, whatever they call it. I forget what it's called. This is a place. What is it? The divider, yeah. And so everybody was okay. Although, but they were scared out of their wits. I was worried that the car was so damaged we wouldn't be able to drive, and the police would eventually come, and that they'd find out it was a stolen car. Then we'd really be in trouble. But no, it was a little damaged, but we could drive it. But instead of going to 70, the axle had bent or something, so we had to go like 20 miles an hour up to Montreal. So much later on, when I was in the movement, I saw that as Krishna saving me, it could have been fatal easily. And even in the movement, I'm driving Sadhapura up to Rochester. He was going to go back to school, get more of a degree or something, And it was in a van. I'm driving, and entering onto the thruway or whatever we were driving up there. And suddenly the guy in front of me slows up a lot, and I was able to put the brakes on and not hit him. And as soon as I didn't hit him, he drove away. And so he was trying to get the insurance thing. It's a thing where you can cause an accident. That's a thing. I realized that. Anyway, so that I saw as Krishna's direct protection. So we can be thankful, thankful. I mean, that's like, isn't that what we're supposed to, the attitude of gratitude? Forgive me, No, that wasn't thought up by Vaisheshika. It wasn't thought up by Bhakti Tirtha. It was Swami. It was a saying that was current in the 50s and 60s. But anyway, first thing, samsara davananari loka tranaya. We're all burning in this forest fire of birth, old age, disease, and death. But the spiritual master comes and delivers, those who are willing to surrender and worship. Karunyagana, like a cloud, raining mercy. So that sense of gratitude should pervade our whole life. We should be so thankful that we want to serve as the best we can for the pleasure of the Guru and Krishna, like that, and the devotees. That kind of giving mood and desire to do the service nicely and improve the service, and mostly do services that will help others to become Krishna conscious. That's what Krishna is most wanting from us. So anyway, this is, Gajendra is very dramatic, and this verse is also key, Tattenu kampam susumikshimano. To see the things that come as our own results of our own previous activities. It's not that some accidental thing that happens. It's all a result of something we've done. I remember when I first joined, we'd all do stints in the kitchen. There was a lot of devotees in the temple. You had to cut up the vegetables, and eventually you cut yourself a little bit, So you learn, okay, we had Band-Aids and everything, so. But you learn that, yes, you had your karma coming and you were supposed to lose your finger, but you only got a little cut, so you should be thankful. That's the mood. It's something we've done in the past life, coming here, and now Krishna's giving us a little hint of reaction. There's some reaction. He's managing it all. It's we're not, be really serious, you're not just under the modes of nature. It's Krishna personally giving the karma that you do, in such a way that you can, continue your service, but be thankful of his blessing that he minimized it. So in that way, the whole point is your attitude remains favorable toward the Lord. Unlike these poor wives and mothers in Germany who became atheists because, he didn't fulfill our desires, like that. So that's the difference between the devotees. And we find this lesson again and again in the Bhagavatam. Just think of the attitude of Queen Kunti, her famous prayers, chapter 8, first canto. She was so grateful for the Lord that he had come there, and that she recited so many instances when he saved them. So she was remembering that, thankful. And then that famous verse, Vibadak Santatakshashvat Tattatatta Jagadgado Bhavatu Darshanang Yaksatapana Bhavadarshanam. This is directly related to Girendra's program, right? Let those dangers happen again and again, because by those dangers we see you. You come and save us. We can see your presence. We can feel your presence. Who cares about the dangers? So now that we're installed as finally, in the kingdom, now you're going the Dwarka? No. Let the dangers happen again and then. So this is quite a beautiful attitude that she has. But still, I won't conclude without that favorite prayer, which anyone can learn. Tvaye me ananya vishaya mati madhupate sakrit ratamud bhataradha gange vaogumadanviti. O Madhava, O Madhu's Lord, please ever fill my mind with thoughts of thee, not any other kind, as Ganges torrent flows into the sea. Let all my love flow constantly to thee. This is a perfect prayer for the Vaishnavas. Okay, any discussion? I'm sorry we went a little overtime. We had Parameshwar Thakur. Oh, we don't have the mics keyed up. Oh, there they are.
Hare Krishna. I think Suresh has a question. He wanted to ask about the stolen car.
We lost the car?
The stolen car.
Oh, my stolen car. I didn't steal it. I was just driving. I had some friends. I had one friend especially who thought that stealing things was part of the revolution. Liberating this from the, I wouldn't call them karmis, but ordinary people, so we could use it for the revolution, So he almost got us all arrested. The same friend I drove across the country with when my first trip to San Francisco it wasn't during the Summer of Love, it was the year after. But there wasn't a stolen car, but we had a couple of stowaways in the back, a couple of young kids who wanted to go to hippie land. So we had them, and then we also had some marijuana, in the glove compartment. So we get to a motel, we stop and in Reno. And I was a bit of a gambler, and I'd always dreamed of Las Vegas. Well, this wasn't Las Vegas, but it was a knockoff, So early in the morning, I got up and I went. There was not hardly anyone in the casino at that time, but there was someone, and there was a table, the roulette. And so I lost about $10. I came back, and the cops had come. And they had confiscated the car because we had these kids in there. I said, "Oh my God, they're going to find the marijuana. We're going to, we're going to go to jail here in Reno." Anyway, eventually they sent the kids back. This is what they did, So the kids were on their way back to New York, and they gave us the car back. And again, Krishna protected. They didn't find the marijuana. They didn't arrest us, put in jail for 10 years. And I drove on to San Francisco. So later on, again, saying Krishna says, "Thank you, Krishna. You know, I could have easily got I would have not been able to stand in the jail, I think." All right, any real questions? Vijay, are you there?
Yes, Dravida Prabhu, I'm here. If I may, you mentioned about a devotee when he's in danger. That is good. Is a good position. That is good for the devotee. So my question is, how do you explain that being in danger is good for a devotee?
Probably it was in the purport, I think. I mean, I didn't say it. What's good if the devotee, you know, if he's mature enough, because the problem is that a neophyte devotee undergoes some danger or some reverse or some difficulty and will leave. You know, so that's not for me. You know, we had one fellow here, nice guy. This was during the pandemic rush when a bunch of devotees came in, Govardhan and Vijamani are two of them, and they stayed. But this fellow was a young kid, couldn't read so well. He was born abroad. And I always see him dancing, and he would always go, "Yes, Susukam," joyfully performed. He had, you know, from the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 2nd verse, Raja Vijay Raja. So he was dancing. I said, "This is wonderful." But then he left. And I asked, "What happened to so-and-so?" I said, "Oh, he said, oh, it's a slave mentality. You know, I don't like it, you know." And then eventually, Balaram ran into me, came here. He had become a serious Christian, at least, more, you know, appeared to be. And they went for a walk, and he was telling about the slave mentality and all this, so it didn't happen. So, of course, that's not the same thing as danger, but you can easily see it's in the same category as those wives, those German wives. Krishna, you know, I had this serious thing, and Krishna didn't give me what I need, or he didn't protect me from this, and I don't believe him, you know. I did all this service. I washed the pots every day for the last 6 weeks, you know, and I got up and I was chanting that mantra. You know. So in other words, it's still the fruit of mentality, instead of understanding the great good fortune we have, and that whatever, if you can get into this, whatever reverses we have, oh, this is from my past lives. And Krishna's given me he's still allowing me to stay and chant and do the services. So how kind he is. That's the whole point. And that, so that, you understand, Vijay? The whole point is that, I mean, this is, you know, Kundi's describing this, praising the dangers, Vibadak Santadakshashvar. But at the same time, there's the same word is used, Samashitaye Padapallavaplavam. Mahatpadam punya yasho marari. Bhavambude vatsapadam parampadam padam yad vibadam natesham. Vibadam. So it's saying if one wants to be free from the dangers of birth, old age, and disease and death, you know, the only way to do it is get on the boat of Krishna's lotus feet. Take full shelter of Krishna's lotus. Samashitaye padabala. Mahatpadam, what are those lotus feet? The place where the whole Mahatattva is resting, where all the Mahatmas stay. And Punya Yasho Murari means that Murari, Krishna, the enemy of Mura demon, whose glorification itself brings piety. Punya Yasho. Bhavambudi Vatsapadam Padam. Not for them who take shelter of that lotus feet. Is this place of birth and death, the ocean of birth and death, because you're taking shelter of that boat of the lotus feet, you're crossing over. All that water, that vast ocean we've been struggling in for millions of births, shrinks down to the water in a calf's hoof print. Not even a cow, you know, just a calf. You can just eat it. Padam padam nadvipadam. Not for them is this place which is full of dangers. So there, Krishna's, you know, he's recognizing, oh, we want to be free from dangers, you know, and this is a way to do it. So that's the motivation. But in the process of getting to that point, there still may be some dangers, some reverses, but we understand, oh yeah, but it's much less than I would have had, you see? And so your attitude toward God is always positive, you know? If it's free of dangers, and you said, oh, how wonderful it is. I joined this Hare Krishnas, and now, you know, I don't have to pay the rent anymore. This is great. Worry about it. No, but the point is that that's one way of appreciating. And the other is if some reverse does happen, you know, like I had my sprained ankle. Were you here at that time? This was at the time when Vijayananan was leaving his body. November, it was just before of 19, I think, just before the pandemic hit. And it was a serious one. I couldn't come to the temple for a while. I had crutches, you know. And, but it's not like why did that happen? You know, I used to dance in Arctic. Now I can't even walk to the temple. No, you know, it's just, well, okay. You know, this will be cured. This will some karma coming. I was probably ready to get, anyways. So that is the both attitudes. And so the danger and the difficulties give us a chance to cry out to Krishna. You read the Krishna book. What happens? Think of the forest fire after the Kaliya pastime. You know, first of all, that Kaliya pastime was a big test, you know, of them. It was Krishna's engineering. He's a great impresario. You know what impresario is? One who arranges for a dance recital or for a play or something like that. So Krishna is managing the whole thing. And here's Kaliya. And, you know, instead of just smashing him, you know, when he went out there, he could have easily... No, he allowed us to be captured. And here's this delicate little boy, you know, they don't know he's God. And they love him, and so they see all these omens. But he went out without Balaram. It was Balaram's birthday or something. You know, so then they follow the footprints, and there they see in the lake, within the river, he's captured, this delicate little boy, and these horrific... multi-headed cobra, you know, with its fangs and everything, and he's captured. So Mother Yashoda is freaking out, you know, and trying to go in the water. They're stopping her, and only Balaram is like, cool, you know, he prevented them from going in the water. So there's no danger. So what did Krishna do? You know, he engineered all this to bring out these deep emotions, and then break free. You know, after 2 hours, when he saw that, if you read the Krishna book, when he saw everyone's on the point of death, then he just broke out and he starts dancing on the Kaliya, you know, in a supernatural way, you know, and then the Gandharvas start playing, the drums are playing, you know, and everyone says, oh, thank God. Thank God. They don't think he's God. Thank God, you know. And so, so it's a similar thing with our own devotional life. That we can see that, oh, I was scheduled, I said, boy, thank God it's not broken. I could have broken this foot, you know, and I'd be up, you know, in a wheelchair. But, and then eventually, you know, I was able to come to the temple and keep it up, you know, the rice program. But, so that's a relatively minor thing. But the dangers are ways in which we can, you know, really focus our you know, attention on Krishna and pray to him. And then the result of the danger is that eventually it passes, or we die, you know, or something, or whatever. But in either case, we're fixed on Krishna. The whole point is if your mind is fixed on Krishna, your life is auspicious. And that helps to fix the mind. That was Kunti's whole point, is that we're in the forest, you know, and we were exiled. Of course, we're thinking of you, but, you know, there's so many things to do. And then Duryodhana sends Durvasa, you know, with his thousands of disciples for lunch, right? Right. And there's Draupadi there, but she already finished cooking, you know, she had this blessing. So he says, oh, what are we going to do? How are we going to, they said, well, take a bath in the river. Okay, so we're in the river. So Krishna comes, he says, so look, give me a little shock. He says, there's nothing left. He said, just look in the pot, there's always something like that. I found a little shock, he ate it, and immediately they felt so full, they were embarrassed. Well, you can't eat anything, you know, so they slunk away. So this is a, you know, example. They were danger after danger, you know, and they were always saved. And the biggest one was the battle itself, and Krishna was right there with Arjuna, you know. So that's you know, Kunti's realization. She's at a super high level, but that's what we should try to embrace. That attitude, meditate on it, and in that way, danger can be a catalyst for intensifying our meditation and our focus on Krishna, because it's our only hope is that Krishna will save us from this. You know, that's why I understand it, Vijay.
Yes, and you made me speechless again because of the quality of your answer, Prabhu. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Haribol. Okay, all glories to Prabhupada. Hari Hari.